Hi everyone, I'm Anup and today I'm going to talk about what is cultural shock and how to avoid them. So what is cultural shock? Cultural shock is the effect of being far from family and familiar environment, familiar norms, culture and all. So how does cultural shock happen? So when we move to a new culture from our old culture for a long period of time, or people may suffer from cultural shock. And it is also said that it is often the result of a difference between what you think will happen and what exactly happens. So it is difference between the expectation versus the reality, and it leads to a cultural shock. And a recent study has shown that the 40% of US students, 40% of international students who comes to US are suffering from cultural shock and loneliness and do not have a close friend. So now I'm gonna move to the symptoms of cultural shock. So how to notice if a person is suffering from cultural shock. So Rob M on 1999 had said that a major symptom of cultural shock can be emotional difficulties. So if you notice a people or a students who is going through depression, who prefers to be lonely and who is often loneliness, can be said to be diagnosed by cultural shock. And what else? Homesickness also can be considered as the symptoms of cultural shock. So I would like to include that the main reason that I'm choosing this topic is that I'm an international student and I have gone through all these symptoms and I know how it feels. So the other major symptom can be loss of identity. If a person is kind of lost in group, he doesn't want to come in front and who doesn't want to involve in group, can also be said to be diagnosed with a cultural shock. So he will lack of confidence, he will feel like he's being abused, and he'll be overwhelmed by smaller activities and will have negative thoughts on every smaller things. Now I'm gonna move to the stages of cultural shock. So what are the stages of cultural shock? The very first stage is the honeymoon stage. So by saying honeymoon stage, what happens is like when a new people come to new place, he will be very excited, he will find everything interesting, he is excited about everything, and he doesn't feel like he's having a cultural shock. Actually he feels like he's in vacation. But as the time passes by, he will realize that he does not belong there, it is not his culture, everything is new, food is new, people is new, language is new, and that is how we diagnose the first stage of cultural shock. And the second period of cultural shock is period of confusion and worry. So as the time passes by, the individual will be pretty confused whether if he is having cultural shock or not. It is the transition period from having the feeling of vacation and actually being the victim of cultural shock. And during that period, he will often feel sadness, he will go through depression, he will be helpless and frustration. So what is the other stage after that? There's a recovery phase. So once a person realizes that he's having a cultural shock, he will try to overcome it. He'll try to recover it. So that phase is considered as a recovery phase. And the fourth phase is the repeated cultural shock followed by recovery. So when a person tries to recover from a cultural shock, will he actually get out of cultural shock? It depends on the people. It depends upon the people around him, and it depends upon the counseling that he gets from other people. So a person might get out of cultural shock, or he might again go to the second stage of having depression, helplessness and frustration. Okay, so can cultural shock be avoided? Yes, cultural shock can be avoided. There are few measures that make our adjustment as smooth as possible so that we can avoid cultural shock. So cultural shock is just about the thinking, it's all about the attitude. If you develop positive attitude on everything, if you feel like the new environment is welcoming, if you go into people, if you go to the clubs, if you join sport events, if you try to communicate with more people, and if you avoid sitting alone, and then you can overcome cultural shock. And the other thing we can do that if you get plenty of exercise, if you get a balanced diet, if you get proper counseling from university and all, you can overcome cultural shock. And what else? You can also overcome cultural shock by engaging in cultural relativism. So that includes practical cultural relativism. So you can relate your culture with your own culture, and then you can mitigate that problem. So finally, I would like to go through the points that I went through. So I described what a cultural shock is, how to avoid them, what are the stages, and having said that, I would like to conclude my speech. Thank you.